Yo, what's up, guys? Figured I would do a little live stream, kind of going through some plays. So, League of Legends lines just dropped for tomorrow. Um, and you can see there's some pretty crazy discrepancies. So, Underdog Fantasy has this player, Hans Sama, his line at 13. If we check out PrizePicks, they have his line at 16.5. So I've explained this before, but like these discrepancies you will never see in the NBA. Like a lot of people, oh, I'm not sure if I should bet on esports, whatever. So you're not able to pair players from the same team, unfortunately. So we can't pair these two players together on Underdog Fantasy, but I can on PrizePicks, right? So this Caps player, we'd want to take his under as well. Underdog Fantasy has his line a lot higher. So we're essentially not a bunch of books post, odds on esports. So it's not super clear, like, yo, which book is, kind of screwing up here. But what we can do is we can create a little slip. So on Underdog Fantasy here, we're going to want to take the under. And then on PrizePicks, we found two players on the same team. So the reason Underdog Fantasy doesn't let you pair players from the same team is these players, if one guy goes over, his teammate is more likely to go over. So in this case, getting both overs on PrizePicks as well as two unders, right, for G2 Esports, like this is about as good as it gets, right? But unfortunately on PrizePicks, you can only pair two players together. So then we also want to take this Tian guy, right? We want to take him on PrizePicks and on Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog, we want to take the under. On PrizePicks, we want to take the over. Nope. So this we don't want to do actually, right? You don't want to take players on opposing teams both to go under. That's negatively correlated. And again, if this is confusing, whatever. Like we have some tutorial videos and stuff about where is this guy? So here again, same team. We're not going to be able to include it. So that's a little annoying. So we have some plays on PrizePicks. So what I'm going to go with for my last play on Underdog Fantasy is this player, Jeremy Parago, to go under 17, right? So I'm going to put this slip together on Underdog Fantasy. Nope. So I want to go back here, under 17. I'm going to put this slip together, $100. Please tell me, oh my gosh, these live streams, these great betting opportunities, they don't last super long. So you can see one of the plays moved, the first one. So luckily, I'll just be able to replace him with caps under over 9.5, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and lock this in. So there we go. I have my first slip right there on Underdog Fantasy, right? So capitalizing on these discrepancies in the market, right? We have caps over 9.5. PrizePicks has his line, at 12. So what we're doing is called a middle bet, right? We're essentially just taking advantage of this inefficiency in the market. And then for this Jeremy Parago player, Underdog has his line at 17. PrizePicks has him at 16.5. ParlayPlay has him at 16.5. So it seems like Underdog Fantasy is the discrepancy. We're following the value in the market. And then we want one more pick on PrizePicks to go with. So we need one more play on PrizePicks, not from the same team, ideally. So what we can do is we can just take a look at this Broken Blade player. Am I going to be able to include him? So we can go over to PrizePicks. And he's on G2. So I don't think PrizePicks is going to let me bet this, but we can try. And we can put this slip together. So League of Legends entries can only contain two players from the same team. So I need one more pick on PrizePicks, because we have some really good ones, some really good discrepancies here that we're taking advantage of. So what we can always do is just go here and whatever, like this Jeremy Parago play, it doesn't seem that good in the big three, but we can go here and take him over 16.5. And then we can kind of like explain what we did right here. So here's my slip on PrizePicks, right? So why do we like this slip? I try to keep these videos, whatever, educational. So first of all, it's like, okay, wait, what did I just do? TES. So I don't actually, I screwed that up. So I want to cancel this. So if you bet that, cancel this. I meant to remove this player Tion. Again, you don't want to take players from opposing teams to both go the same direction. So I'll kind of explain why I bet this here in a sec, but let me just lock in this 5-pick entry here, right? So on PrizePicks, so first things first, it's like, why do we play 3 picks on Underdog Fantasy but not PrizePicks, right? And again, I have a bunch of full strategy videos breaking down the math behind PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy, the strategies for beating them. Is on PrizePicks, right? You're going to see right here, right? If you play a 3-pick entry, they're only giving you a 5x payout. Underdog Fantasy gives you a 6x payout. So long story short, PrizePicks is kind of a ripoff for these 3-pick entries, whereas Underdog Fantasy actually offers, a decent price, decent, payout. They're giving you 6x, 100 to win 600. PrizePicks would have only been 100 to win 500, right? So that's why on Underdog Fantasy, again, we have tons of strategy videos about this online. And if you don't have any of these sports books, I included my, refer a friend codes below. So, you can see like the one on PrizePicks, whatever obviously helps me out if you sign up with my code. But PrizePicks is ripping you off kind of for these 3-pick parlays, whereas Underdog Fantasy is giving you a bit better of a payout, right? So all OddsJam is doing, if you think about it, is pretty simple, right? Most plays aren't profitable. So if you look at what's a good example? Carlos Carrasco, his strikeout line is 4 on Underdog Fantasy. If we check out, PrizePicks, his line's at 4. If we check out ParlayPlay, which is another sports book, so we go here, right, and we look up Carlos, his line's at 4. There's no discrepancies. There's no value in the market, right? There's no discrepancies between the sports books. What makes sports betting so profitable is all these books try to set lines independently. So essentially, what's cool about esports, what's great about esports is there's tons of games, right? So you can see there's thousands of lines currently out there on Underdog Fantasy on PrizePicks. It's a Sunday afternoon. Sportsbooks can't really manage their lines. They at least don't do it that well, right? Underdog Fantasy is trying to set these thousands of esports odds. PrizePicks is doing the same thing. And in general, they're pretty good at keeping their lines in check. But sometimes they obviously screw up. So literally all OddsJam is doing, this fantasy optimizer, is updating millions of odds. There's hundreds of sports books on OddsJam. It's not just, whatever. It's not just PrizePicks and Underdog Fantasy. There's tons of sports books that, you may want to place bets on. Fliff, right? I gave out this play on Twitter, actually. Under 1.5 goals in Portugal, Vietnam. There's tons of sports books you may want to place bets on. There can be value on tons of different sports books, but the more books you have, obviously the better. I've said that before too. You never know which book is going to have the biggest discrepancies, the most profitable bets on a given day. Just like an investor, may not know what he's going to invest in over the next 2 years. You scan through the millions of possible investments. You try to look for those investments that actually have an edge, that actually have, a positive ROI. So we can see here in esports, there's a lot of discrepancies between the sports books, right? Like if you saw an NBA player and his line was 12 on PrizePicks and 9.5 on Underdog Fantasy, you'd be like, whoa, that's a big discrepancy. What's going on? But anyways, let's go back here and we'll find some more plays in a second. I'll refresh this. But anyways, so what we're doing is this is, called a middle bet. So essentially all I'm doing is pretty simple. Again, in esports, there's not a bunch of books posting lines. Right now, it's only PrizePicks and Underdog Fantasy who have League of Legends lines out for tomorrow. Whereas you think about what's a good example? You think about tennis. I mean, you can see Caesars just moved the line from plus 120 to plus 105, right? They just ripped the odds from plus 120 to plus 105. So you can see lines are moving towards this, Madison girl, plus 110. She is ripping. Lines are ripping in her favor, right? She moved from plus 110 to minus 107 on Pinnacle, which is known to be one of the sharpest, the smartest sports books. So long story short, when you have a lot of data points all saying, yo, this Madison girl should be priced around plus 100, Madison woman girl, Madison woman should be priced around plus 100. That's the average price. And you're getting plus 120 on Caesars. It's pretty clear, like, yo, Caesars is screwing up here. Whereas when you're looking at esports, there's only a couple sports books. So long story short, what I did here is I essentially, for this player caps, I mean, there's this massive discrepancy, 9.5, 12. So long story short, I took the over 9.5 and the under 12. I'm essentially just capitalizing on the big discrepancy in the market. So if this caps player has 10 kills, then I'll win my over, I'll win my under. If this caps player has 11 kills, I'll win my over 9.5, I'll win my under 12. If he has exactly 12 kills, I'll push on PrizePicks. So this will be a tie, right? And my 5-leg parlay will become a 4-leg parlay, and I'll win on Underdog Fantasy. Huge discrepancy. And this strategy is called middle betting. And again, OddsJam has a tab for middle bets. So you can go there and you can see there's like whatever. You can kind of like, there's tutorial videos and stuff like that you can watch by, this handsome guy right here, explaining it, breaking it down, explaining the math behind middles, explain why they're profitable, all that sort of stuff. And then we can go back here, and then it's the same thing for this GG player, right? 6.5 versus 5.5, right? So if he has exactly 5 kills, then we'll win our over, we'll win our under. Pretty good. Now on PrizePicks, we have this added benefit of correlation, right? These players are on the same team. So even if you don't watch League of Legends, it may be a little confusing, but it should make sense for, the NFL, right? So if you look at like receiving touchdowns, right? I've given this example before, but, it's pretty interesting. So if we wanted to make a PrizePick slip, right, and we thought Patrick Mahomes was going to have an amazing season, throw for, 50 passing touchdowns, and you take his over, well, it probably makes sense to take Travis Kelce's over, right? That's his main target. If Mahomes has a great season, throws for 50, 60 passing touchdowns, and Travis Kelce is probably getting over 9.5 receiving touchdowns, right? These are positively correlated. If Mahomes goes over, Kelce's more likely to go over. And what's interesting about PrizePicks is, right, on PrizePicks, they don't change your payout. You zoom in, they don't change your payout based on you selecting over versus under. So you obviously want to pair both players to go over together. And the reason is correlation, positive correlation. If Mahomes goes over, Kelce's more likely to go over. So, this is a really useful strategy on PrizePicks. And long story short, the same thing in esports, right? Basically the way it works in esports, and you can Google it. There's tons of, I've done videos about it, stuff like that. But as if this Hans Sama player goes under, then his teammate Caps is more likely to go under, right? If GG goes over, right, his teammate Fofo and GG, his teammate Fofo is more likely to go over as well, right? So these are positively correlated. These are positively correlated. So we have the added benefit of positive correlation. So you may be like, well, why didn't you play those players on, Underdog Fantasy? And you'll see in esports, PrizePicks is a little dumb, right? And the reason they're a little dumb is you'll notice on Underdog Fantasy, they're like, hey, you can only pair one player from each team can go in the same entry. Underdog Fantasy is too smart to let you bet on players from the same team, both to go over. PrizePicks, on the other hand, they let you pair players from the same team. Only 2, but this is a big added benefit for your PrizePick slips when you can find it. Positive correlation, which is pretty cool. So we can go back here and we can, reload PrizePicks, see if there's any more esports line discrepancies, and there are some. And again, if you didn't lock in this play on Fliff, definitely recommend it. Like if you think about what is plus 100 odds, it's kind of like, you're flipping a coin with a friend, for $100. If you win, like if you win this bet, if the game goes under, you get $100. If your unit size is $100 plus 100 odds, you're betting 100 to win 100. It's like flipping a coin with a friend for $100. If head shows up, you get $100. If tail shows up, you give your friend $100. But what you're going to notice is every other sports book is like, yo, the under is more likely, right? So that's like finding a coin where heads is weighted. The coin is weighted to show up on heads. All these sports books, including Pinnacle, this sports book Pinnacle is known to be one of the smartest, the sharpest sports books out there. They have the under as a pretty heavy favorite, right? Minus 129. And they've actually been ripping lines in favor of the under. It's moved from minus 110. You can see, you can pull up a little line movement chart on OddsJam. It's moved from minus 109 all the way down to minus 125 or 29, right? So all the sports books are saying, yo, the under's more likely. So that's like finding a coin that's more likely to show up on heads, and you're flipping it with a friend for $100. That would be a no-brainer. You'd want to pick heads. You found a play with an edge. That's how the math behind sports betting, profit margin. You know, we have tons of videos about how to break down your profit margin, stuff like that. But that's the general, you know, high-level concept. So we can go back to PrizePicks. Whoa. So you can see some new plays are popping up, some new line discrepancies that we can take advantage of. Hopefully. I mean, we were moving, these lines were flying around. So let's go back here. I want to remove all this crap because I don't care about it. Over 14, right, on PrizePicks. We want to go here to League of Legends, go away, and we want to take him. So you can see it already came down to 15.5. I think before it was like PrizePicks had their line at 16.5. Now it's down to 15.5. So again, these great betting opportunities, they don't last forever. If you learn anything from these videos, you know, so we can filter out the big three. We can focus on League of Legends here for a second. So long story short, these great betting opportunities are not going to last forever. So we need to move quickly. So let's go here. And we can go to this FOFO player, and we can start building a slip, right? So we want caps under 12. So let me remove this crap. So we want caps over 10, caps under 12 on PrizePicks. So it's like, okay, that play is still available. Now let's look up this FOFO guy. So FOFO is a different game, so no correlation, right? Underdog has his line at 10.5. PrizePicks has his line at 9, so we want to take the over on PrizePicks. Then we can go to this Hans Sama person, and I'm not going to be able to bet this on Underdog Fantasy because, again, they don't let me pair two players from the same team, but I'm going to take this on PrizePicks, right? Then we can look up this Broken Blade player. Again, I'm not going to be able to pair this on either. I already have two players from the same team. So this GG player, did I already bet him? So we can go back here to this GG player. So I already bet this GG player. So I'm not going to be able to rebet that. So we may not have enough, you know, for a slip yet, but we can take a look here. So we need one more pick on Underdog Fantasy to go with. So maybe we do put the big three back in, and then we can take a look. So what's a good line discrepancy to go with? So this seems decent, right? Dusan Balut. This is in the big three. Underdog has his line at 20. PrizePicks at 20.5. ParlayPlay has the line the same level, right, at 20.5. So we're following the data, right? And the general concept is like pretty simple, right? They have his line at 20.5 on ParlayPlay. Underdog Fantasy has his line at 20. So it's like, yo, their line's too low. Let's go ahead and let's take the over. And hopefully none of these moved. I've already hit my, I guess I've already bet him. So I've already bet this Caps player who's on G2 Esports. So I'm going to have to go to this Broken Blade one, which is fine. What the heck? And take him over 9.5. And then we have our second slip, right, on Underdog Fantasy. And again, we're just using data to our advantage, right? 99% of sports bettors just bet with their gut. You know, we're following the data, looking for plays that actually have a mathematical edge. So here we have 3 picks on PrizePicks, good to go. We have this slip on Underdog Fantasy. And again, like, you'll notice these great line discrepancies, they're not going to, unfortunately, they're just not going to last forever. But we need 2 more picks on PrizePicks, right? So what we can do is we can go to this Edward Gaming team. So it's recommending Lil Uzi, right, to go over 9.5. No, under 11. So this play we wouldn't want to play, right? You just got to be a little cautious here because we want to take Fofo over, right? And then it's recommending we take Uzi over. So this actually works well, right? This is positively correlated, right? We found a line discrepancy. Uzi's line is 12.5 on Underdog Fantasy, right? It's 11 on PrizePicks. So we can start building another slip here. And again, like this isn't super glamorous, but this really is mathematical sports betting, how to follow markets and make money. Like I used to be a trader. When I was a trader, a lot of people think it's just sitting around and being like, oh, I think Facebook is going to go up today. No, that's how, most people think, but that's why they all lose money, right? The way it works as like a trader working at a firm is like you're ruthlessly following the data, all the stuff happening in the market, and you're identifying opportunities. And it's really no different in sports betting. You're following all this information. And a lot of people will be like, oh, like, why don't you consider historical data? Like, for example, does it matter if Madison Ingalls lost her last 5 games? And the answer is really, it's not that relevant because it's already baked into the market, right? Like, if she just had a kid, if she went 0 for 5 in her last 5 games, all that stuff is going to be priced into the market, right? All that stuff is priced in to the market, which is why you follow market information, sportsbook odds. So we still need one more play on PrizePicks. So we'll go back here. It seems like they're dropping a lot of League of Legends lines, so we can reload this. And we have 4, right? We have 4 really good, positively correlated, plays. So what we can do is we just need to find one more pick to go with because, again, we have strategy videos in general kind of breaking down why, but you want to go with, in general, 3 or 5 pick entries, I apologize, on PrizePicks. So we can go to this Dusan Bullet guy, whatever. And again, this play's not as good, right? Because here it's like, okay, not a ton of sports books post lines in the big 3, right? It's basically Underdog Fantasy, PrizePicks, and then this sportsbook ParlayPlay. And here, like, we found a discrepancy, right? Out of the tens of thousands of lines on Underdog Fantasy, PrizePicks, like, they're pretty good at keeping their lines in check. There's not a lot of discrepancies out there. We really are looking for the needles in a haystack. So what we can do is we can lock this in, right? And this will be my next slip on PrizePicks. Really good correlation, right? If Caps goes under, Hans Sama is more likely to go under. Positively correlated, just like Kelsey and Mahomes, both to go over. Same thing for Fofo and Uzi. They're on the same team. If Fofo goes over, Uzi's more likely to go over, right? So we got some plays. Really good correlation plays on PrizePicks, as well as some big line discrepancies that we capitalized on. So essentially, like, that's the strategy. You look for players on the same team on PrizePicks, both to go over or under in League of Legends, and you want big discrepancies. And if the discrepancy is really, really big, you can hedge on another sports book. So we can reload this. It seems like they're dropping a lot of lines in general. But anyways. And again, like, it's pretty simple. If you look at, like, if we go to the sportsbook screen, I mean, this big 3 league is such a random league. But if we go here and we go to, like, player points or something like that, player points, you'll notice there's just not a ton of discrepancies in general. Or maybe it's better to look at, like, let's go to, like, the MLB, Well, I guess most MLB games have started. But if we go to esports, so let's just go to League of Legends. So this, betting tool is called the sportsbook screen, and it works a little differently. Again, everything on OddsJam is based in data, but like the EV tool essentially is just showing you discrepancies, right? It's showing you big discrepancies in the market for the sportsbooks you use. For the 202 sportsbooks on OddsJam, some may be legal in your location, some may not be. Right? Like Caesars is a great sports book. I use it all the time when I'm home in Virginia. I'm from Virginia, but it's not legal in every state. I think it's only legal Caesars online sports book in, like, 15, something like that states, 13 states, whatever it is. So I can't bet on it right now. But you can see, like, the more books you have, the better. There's some good bets on DraftKings, some on FanDuel. More books you have, the better, right? But if we look at League of Legends, so let's go here, and let's just look at, like, you know, player kills. Crazy how esports, there's so many games, right? More games means more opportunity. People love betting on football. You know, you got to remember, like, in football, there's games basically one day a week. There's not that many games, so it's pretty easy for PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy to keep their lines in check, right? It's pretty easy for them to watch their lines, make sure they're not screwing up. So if you look here, it's just like, okay, you know, well, there's some discrepancies, right? Hans Sama, 15.5. It's basically the ones we just looked at. And you can see this Caps player, right? PrizePicks has already moved his line down to 11.5. We got him on PrizePicks under 12. So these great betting opportunities, they're not going to last, you know, forever. But if we go here to, like, you know, map 1 kills, whatever. So we just looked at the market that has a fair amount of discrepancies. But in general, there's not a ton of so let's look at something. First 2 map player kills, maybe here. Well, only Underdog Fantasy has lines out. But long story short, it's just like in general, there's usually not huge discrepancies in the market, right? And out of the millions of odds on sportsbooks, in general, they do a pretty good job at keeping their lines in check. Like if we go to, for example, the MLB, right? And we just take a look at, like, you know, the Orioles game tomorrow, right? It's like, I mean, all sports books have this in a pretty narrow range around, like, free to browse odds on OddsJam, by the way. Any sport you want, any market you want to look at, completely free to browse odds. But it's like, you know, all sports books are kind of pricing this around plus 110. This OddsJam algo odds column is basically just an average of all the sports books with the VIG or the juice removed. So if you know, remove the VIG, right? So removing the VIG, this is what removing the VIG looks like, right? The no VIG odds, right? Like the books kind of have the Orioles, if you remove the VIG, priced from like plus 117 to plus 124. There's not a ton of huge discrepancies, right? In the market in general, right? It's a pretty narrow range. No big discrepancies in the odds, plus 117 to plus 124. So the books in general do a pretty good job at keeping their lines in check, right? We're just looking for those spots where they're screwing up. So you can see here, there's some plays on like Hot Streak, whatever. So you can go here back to the Fantasy Optimizer. Same plays available. Looks like a lot of these plays are still available. Some have come down a bit, but again, the more books you have, the better. So like one other sports book I use, and a lot of people, you know, it may not be a book you've heard about. It's called Hot Streak, right? So if we look up Hot Streak, and then we go here and we look up this player, Brandon Nemo, is you're going to see they like, what's cool about this book is they run promos every single hour. So right now, Brandon Nemo, I mean, you're literally going to see, they're telling you, hey, this, you know, they're literally telling you, hey, you know, this is a promo. We're giving you a 3.3% profitable bet. So a lot of books run promos, right? They got to stand out from one another. So what you can do is you can essentially bet on these promos once every hour. So there's also a play on Devers, and then there's a play on Batty under half of a hit. But unfortunately, we're only going to be able to you can only place one promo. So that's not going to work. So what I have to do is go here. You can't pair 2 players from the same team. So this kind of is like PrizePicks, right? You're going to need at least 2 picks to get going. So we can go here, and then we can take Devers over half of a run, right? Which seems pretty good, right? This is a promo. So OddsJam scans all these lines on Hot Streak, and then it's pretty easy to identify. The Fantasy Optimizer does a pretty good job at pointing out these massive discrepancies. So I'm going to lock in this play on Hot Streak, right? So you can see it right here. So 2 picks, right? We want this baddie guy under half of a hit. And then I took Devers over half of a run. 2 plays from the same game, but they're uncorrelated. So why do we like this play on Devers over half of a run? Again, it's pretty simple concept. Like, no offense, however well you think you know sports, these sports books are billion-dollar companies that have invested millions of dollars into their ability to set lines. They have better models than I can create, you can create, right? Like, you're not just going to be able to use your head and create a better model than FanDuel Sportsbook, right? The way you beat the sportsbooks is you use their odds against each other, right? It's literally insane if you think about it, right? Like, the price of Facebook stock is $294. If you go to Fidelity, E-Trade, Robinhood, that's going to be the price, $294. Maybe slight differences due to fees. There's no like massive discrepancies. So sports betting is really fascinating if you like think about it, because the exact same bet, this guy to get a run, Rafael Devers, to get a run has a completely different price on sports books, right? On Hot Streak with this promo, we're getting plus 106 odds. Other sports books, $4 billion companies, you're not going to be able to create better lines than them. FanDuel has this minus 150, right? We're getting 56 cents of improvement on Hot Streak. DraftKings has this minus 115. We're getting 21 cents of improvement. Caesars has this minus 129. We're getting 35 cents of improvement. BetMGM minus 115 as well. It's clear as day that this is a good bet to go with, right? So essentially, sports betting is about using all these books like as data points. Like, oh, FanDuel has this minus 150. This plus 106 looks really good. DraftKings, not as aggressive as FanDuel. They only have this minus 115. Plus 106 still seems really dang good, right? You look through all these books, treat them as data points, and that's how you like consistently make money sports betting, right? Like, and again, you never know where the value is going to be on a given day. So I recommend having as many books as possible, like this ParlayPlay platform. They have very low betting limits. You can only bet $60 typically per slip, because I'm usually placing these 6-pick entries. You know, haven't even used it that much. I've placed 223 bets since signing up like 4 months ago, up roughly $2,300 a profit, making about $10 per entry in profit margin on a $60 bet size. Not bad, right? Like, and I just place bets on ParlayPlay whenever I find value. Sometimes there's a lot of good bets on ParlayPlay in a day. We can actually head over to it. Sometimes there's not as many good bets. So you can see there's some decent plays, but whatever. So Boom Fantasy, nothing. So I'm not going to place a bet on Boom Fantasy. I don't even know if I've ever used Boom Fantasy. I don't think I have. But, you know, nothing on Super Draft, nothing on Thrive Fantasy. So long story short, this Hot Streak platform has a lot of value. It has a lot of good bets. So that's why I'm placing bets on it. And what's cool actually about this platform is they actually run their promo every single hour. So what we can do is we can now go here. So every new hour, they have a new promo. So you can see this play looks insane. So unfortunately, he's on the Mets, so I'm not going to be able – I need a player on the Red Sox. So let's go here. This is literally perfect. So let's go here, and I want to take this Duval player. Boom. You can see this is a promo. Absolutely insane, 9% profit margin. And I want to remove this play, right? And then I have a $10 entry. So new hour, you can only bet $10 on these promos, but you can do them every single hour. So you can see right now, right, like they're boosting Adam Duvall to get a run to plus 128 odds, right? And I'm not sure why they show odds. Like if you look at this platform, they show odds in what's called, you know, decimal format, European format, however you want to think about it. So for example, they have this guy, Carlos Carrasco, to give up a run in the first inning. They have the over. So Carrasco to give up a run in the first inning is 2.62 odds. So you may be like, okay, like what does that mean? So all you have to do is go to an odds converter calculator. Maybe this company was started by Europeans or something, because in Europe they use decimal odds. We actually have a way on OddsJam. You can convert a lot of people who use OddsJam in Europe or Canada, they'll use decimal odds. So 2.62 just moved down to 2.60, just means plus 160. Like it's nothing complicated. 2.60 plus 160. So it's kind of the same thing here. So basically for this Adam Duvall player, right? And again, my refer friend code is below. It's just my name, Alex. They have him to score a run for this promo. You can only bet a max of $10, but whatever, at plus 128 odds, right? Cool. You look at FanDuel, they have it minus 130, 58 cents of improvement you're getting on Hot Streak. DraftKings minus 105, Caesars minus 111, BetMGM minus 105. So we have 4 data points, 4 sports books with their sophisticated models. They're taking bets, moving around lines, right? If all the action comes in one way, they'll move their lines, right? Just like the price of a stock is always adjusting to new information in the market. Bad economic news, good news for the company. They made a lot of money. Stock price goes up. It's the same thing in sports betting, right? Sports books aren't idiots, right? Like injury news, lineup changes. They have better data feeds to all that than we have, right? They're moving lines constantly. So, which you can see, right? I mean, it shouldn't be like shocking or anything. You can see right here, if I actually just like pull up a sports book, you can see like they're moving around lines pretty consistently. This is DraftKings Sportsbook, right? They had the Red Sox initially as minus 240 on the plus 1.5 run line. Then they moved it down to minus 220. So lines moved a little towards the Mets. Then, like books are always moving around lines. So again, I don't use most of these sports books, but we can refresh this. More books you have, the better. Circa is a sports book in Vegas. I'm not in Vegas, sadly. You can see there's a good bet in the CFL, the Canadian Football League. Again, you can like pull up a line movement chart, and you can see lines have been ripping towards the Ottawa Red Blacks. Pinnacle, again, known to be one of the sharpest, smartest sports books. They've moved the line, the odds on the Redbacks from plus 194 when they first opened the odds 5 days ago on July 18th, right? This says July 18th. On July 18th, there were plus 194 odds. They've ripped that all the way down to plus 161. So clearly, the market believes the Red Blacks aren't as big of underdogs because their line has come crashing down from plus 194 to plus 161. So who knows? Maybe a good player on the Calgary Stampeders got injured, right? Or maybe lineup announcements came out and the market thinks that the Red Blacks are more likely to win this game. Maybe a sports betting syndicate or a sports betting hedge fund, just put $1 million on the Ottawa Red Blacks and Pinnacle dropped their line and was like, dang, someone just placed a huge bet on them to win the game at plus 188. So let's rip odds lower to like, whatever, plus 170. Sports books are always moving around lines. This is literally a line movement chart. Looks very similar to the price of a stock, right? Good economic news comes out, price goes up. Bad things happen, price goes down. Whatever, you get the point. So, more books you have, the better. If you use FanDuel, I love FanDuel. I think it has a great interface. It's easy to make money off of. They have pretty good lines available. Here's a great bet on FanDuel, right? Hanafman versus Curandulo, first set total games under 8.5 at plus 240. It may seem like a random bet, but again, as a sharp bettor, you're following the data, right? You're hunting for value in the market. You're hunting for an edge. Sometimes there's really good bets in the UFC. Sometimes it's tennis, whatever. So we can go back here and we can go back to PrizePicks, see if there's any new plays available, any new line discrepancies, something like that. And you can see it's a lot of the same stuff. Caps, Uzi, Broken Blade, and Underdog Fantasy. I only have a max betting limit on these esports props of like $100 now. They lowered mine. So whatever. I'll call it a day for now. Hopefully this was helpful. Any new lines come out, I'll try to come on another live stream. Hopefully this was helpful. You can reach out to me on Twitter, email, whatever. If you have questions about sharp sports betting, how to beat the sports books, that's my job. Kind of explain this type of stuff, why I'm betting what I'm betting. And thanks so much for your time.